mechanics has shown mathematically that we live in one of an infinite number of possible universes. Why is this acceptable while a belief in God is described by you as superstition?
You know, that's an interesting question. I think it was Martin Rees, the Royal Astronomer of Britain, has said that inflationary physics, this idea that we could live in one of innumerable number of universes, all functioning by different laws, suggests that there are probably infinite numbers, functionally infinite numbers of technologically advanced civilizations existing right now. And these technically advanced civilizations would have, almost by definition, invented computation and invented computers, and they'd be able to simulate universes on their computers. And it stands to reason there would be more of these simulated universes than actual universes. And therefore, on this reasoning, we should suspect to be in a simulation rather than in a real universe. Now, I guess the only thing I want to say about that, not being a physicist, is that physics appears to have achieved such a state of rarefication that it's almost impossible to know when a physicist is joking. So, you know, nobody's going to be burnt at the stake or stoned to death or imprisoned for a difference of opinion on cosmology. And I think it's for physicists to decide what is a rational claim to knowledge in the discourse of physics.
If you ever believed in a God, what happened to make you begin to question that belief?
I didn't believe in that kind of God. I mean, we've all believed many things that now embarrass us in hindsight. But no, I never was quite that far afield.
Do you see any downside to excessive meditation, which could result in being disassociated or spaced out?
Yeah, I can exemplify that, being disassociated and spaced out right now. Yeah, you know, it's like anything else. We are imperfect people devoting ourselves to various pursuits, and you know, every Buddhist community, every meditative discipline has its casualties and can select for people who are not all that good at gratifying their desires in the world. So you have a lot of, you know, the people who go into a cave for a year, you know, not all of them are the next Buddha. Some of them are very likely quite neurotic and not happy in their lives. So it's you just have to be, you have to separate the various variables, but it's quite possible to, I would imagine, meditate in a way that isn't good for you. Good for you based on who you happen to be, or good for you because you're either doing it wrong or the practice is not suited to you, in a way that it's possible to exercise in a way that's not good for you. You know, there's nothing wrong with jogging, except if you have bad knees, except if you have a bad back, except. So there's almost certainly an analogous issue with meditation.
This association and spaced out has happened to different people. The Heraclitus lived isolated on himself on the mountain for a long time. He wanted to get away from the people who he considered them a little bit noisy and troublesome. But he was Heraclitus. He wrote his book on physics, which even Socrates read it, and unfortunate for humanity, that one was burned accidentally in the temple of Artemis in Ephesus. There is another guy lived like this, Diogenes, but on the contrary of isolation and disassociation, he lived among the Athenians, among people, and he had the unique attitude in life to combine disassociation with association. That means he lived like a cynic, like a self-contained man, away from the comforts of life, but he was living and talking among the people. But he was the one and only Diogenes, which Alexander said, if I were not Alexander, I would like to be a Diogenes. Other people, like Lao Tse, he wanted to get away from the people, and just like Heraclitus, and he was disgusted with people's attitudes. He wanted to get away from, but he was persuaded to come back and write his beautiful book on ethics. Buddhists also, they were becoming ascetics, right? But always they became useful to their own communities, and were quite humanists, and lived in virtue. That there were isolation, disassociation, and spaced out is quite different, comes from the experience of Islam and Christianity. Muhammad was disassociated from his community, lived in a cave, and he came out of it vengeful, full of hatred, full of one-track mind ideas, and he went straight into waging wars upon people, and Islam became the religion that it is today, from the fundamental building blocks of Islam, which Muhammad bring upon, and later on his successors, right? We have another example from Christianity, talking about the John who wrote the Apocalypse. That piece of thing is scary. It has got nothing to do with fairy tales. It's just a piece of a man's thought manifested into a tormented kind of brain. The man saw phantoms. They saw apparitions, like Muhammad, exactly the same experience. Both of them, they didn't bring anything which would be comfort and pleasant to the rest of people. It was just hard-cut rules and regulations, and beliefs which people reading and living with them with fear. This association is not a thing which might call it antisocial, right? Many of us, we like to retreat in a point of our lives for some reason, but that reason will keep our minds in a illogical track, not disturb them by fasting, because when you are fasting, the brain, under the need of food to function and stay healthy, start malfunctioning, and from then on also starts the problem.
Do you think that fundamentalist Christians in the United States would really have any objection to fundamentalist Islamic theocracies if they didn't support terrorism?
Oh yeah, they would have an objection. It's just it wouldn't be so troublesome. It's the wrong religion. You know, from the point of view of Christianity, all those people are going to hell, and the Muslims have returned the favor. All the Christians are going to hell. So.
This is pretty broad, but I'll read it out. Do you think that modern secularism is an evolutionary transition to another state of consciousness, or is it the end of evolution?
Yeah, I'm actually not a fan, and I've received some heat for this, I'm not a fan of words like secularism and atheism. I don't think we have to name the counterpoint to religious irrationality. We don't have words to describe not being an astrologer or not being an alchemist. I mean, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm not an astrologer, I'm not an astrologer. And to some degree, I think the same will work for not being duped by the false certainties of religion. We simply need to apply reason. We can talk about being rational. Ultimately, I don't think we have to talk about being secular.
My good friend Sam, this is fundamentally wrong, because Christianity gave us a dichotomy, separated the world in two parts: the old traditions, the logical societies, where freedom of thought, where science and experimental science and philosophy were the pillars of human society's freedom and development. When Christianity came about, all these cultural beliefs and customs and science and philosophy and the goodies that civilization brought about, and that was the race of Hellenes, music, theater, athletics, right? The beautiful things in life that makes our life beautiful and tolerable. Christianity cursed them, persecuted them, destroyed them. Therefore, they brought a separation line between logical human beings and the new order, new world order, which is the same of today. Didn't change. Since 325, from the first ecumenical synod, today this track of mind and mental track of thought is the same. We are separated into different worlds, right? It's not logic. As you say, Christianity and Islam does not condone to logic and debates and logical philosophical debates, right? They cut conversation. Therefore, they are different people, different mentality. And whoever has survived from their persecution and terror of belief and proselytism, they still are alive and practice their own customs and beliefs. Among these people, you are able to bring up a conversation and make a restart of conversation. It's not just conversation because this is being ostracized by Christians and Muslims, right? And this respect, as I said before, you need to get back to study philosophy. We need these terms like secularism, like atheism, because the words connote, describe the essence of things. We cannot bring everything together because they are unequal in value. If I may say a little further, this is a contradiction of what you have been preaching up to now. You have been delivering, and this is not done by deliberation. Don't take me wrong. It's just, I guess, a lack of further study on philosophy and Hellenic thought. Whoever has not studied philosophy and Hellenic history on these serious matters of our human existence, this is the mystery of life, as the Red Indians say when they are talking about life. The Indians, with those ethical codes coming down from hundreds of years, they're talking about when we are addressing the mystery of life, we don't know, but we have to respect the unknown. We have to respect the environment, the animal life, right? So this is the answer. We need to separate when we're talking about with those peoples. We have to have a common ground of values to agree upon. That's what Aristotle says in his renowned books on the organon, on how to think, that we have to have a basic standard on which we both agree upon to be able to start a conversation. When we're talking about logic and the other are talking about Christian theology and or Muslim, they are two different things. We can mix them together. You can mix gas with fire, it will explode. That's what happens when we are talking with people, those two types of religion, right? Including the Hebrew one. We need to have the same values, or else we don't open up a discussion with them.
So, Sam, why do you uppercase G in God in your book? I know the answer to that.
Well, it's the, I guess I could plead that the copy editor did it, but it's just it's the God most people believe in. I mean, most of the readers are not believing in one God amid many other gods they think exist. There's the one God, the biblical God, which is the Quranic God.
I think we'll close with this question. Seems to me very important. What practical steps can we take as individuals in our individual lives to bring about the conversational intolerance you advocate?
Well, it's interesting. So I'm not actually recommending that we just oppose every claim to religious conviction wherever we find it. I'm not recommending that, in a closed elevator, you hear someone talk about Jesus and you unleash on them. It's really just in situations like this, as a start, I think, when you're at the podium or when you're writing an editorial or an opinion piece for the newspaper, or you're in a situation where you are advancing the conversation about ideas, it seems to me that we all have a moral responsibility to be deeply honest about these things. And so I'm not advocating that we all rush back and destroy every Thanksgiving dinner over these issues, but and then who knows where it would go from there. I mean, there's room certainly for being civil and just turning the other cheek.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Sam Harris is currently completing a doctorate in neuroscience to research the neural foundation for belief. The end of...
I think, Sam, you are wrong here again. This is his book. When you are sick, what do we do when we are sick? We try to destroy the virus which gives us pain and bad health, right? That's why I take pills or make surgeries. We have to destroy it. And do you know that Christianity has been described as a virus that has crawled into the body of Hellenism and eating it slowly for 1,700 years? Do you know that, Sam? This is the reason why this virus, which can be cancer, slowly eating away a healthy body. If we let it continue, the body will become really sick and gone. Don't we have the responsibility to human justice and to the... Oops. And human law and human law that we have to destroy it for the future generations. Destroy, I mean the ideology, not the people. And this must be accomplished only through education.